Okay, welcome to the October 15th, 2019 Facilities Committee meeting of the Radnor Township School District. We would like to start with introductions and administrative remarks. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you very much. We have a couple. One is we are looking forward to meeting with RAC, again, Michelle and I, to have further discussions. At this point, we're still at the $45 for the first 950 hours and $75 thereafter, and $100 swim lessons. And I think we have some other conversations coming up moving forward, so we'll let you know the outcome of that. Second thing is bus garage. We've come up with a tentative schedule for the bus garage completion. We hope to have the documents completed beginning of November. We will ask the board in November for an action to release the board docs for bidding. We expect the bids to come back by the 12th of December for December approval, hopefully. And then an intent to proceed will be December 18th. And then a final completion, substantial completion by March 31st, a final completion by April 30th. And again, that's 100% paid for by the insurance company for the bus garage fire.
Does that include firewalls all the way up? Have they?
Includes a firewall, the two-hour rated drywall firewall in that back room, as well as some improvements to the bathroom and an ADA compliance.
Okay, great.
The next one is the infrastructure project. The committee met about 2 weeks ago. The architect has been dealing with some of the suggestions. He's also had the opportunity to meet and spend a great amount of time with Mike Friel at the high school and tour around the high school. And he also had the opportunity on Saturday to get a former student who was on the football team for 4 years perspective. Spent some time at the Lower Marion game, and after spending about an hour on the phone with him yesterday, his eyes were opened as to what exactly Radnor's all about when we're fully utilized, such as Lower Marion. So that was a good benefit for him, I think. And then you're going to see on your next board the board agenda. I don't have it ready for you tonight, but there's proposals for surveys for the high school property. Again, this is tied to the infrastructure project. We have 3 bidders that are coming in on this. Bless you. We anticipate having a recommendation for you during the regular meeting. And that concludes my comments.
Okay, great. Minutes, everybody read them, approve them, like them?
Public comment first.
You have a comment?
No,
public
public
comment.
comment.
Oh, right, I'm just used to going the other way. Well, yeah. Public comment? Anyone? Counselor? No, alrighty. Minutes, we good?
They look good.
All right, number 1 on the agenda.
So we have an opportunity with the State of Pennsylvania Crime Commission on Crime and Delinquency to have 2 different grants that are currently available. One is a $40,000 grant that we're looking at to improve some of the security infrastructure that we have in the buildings. We are more than likely almost guaranteed to get that $40,000. There's a competitive grant that we're submitting for, and we're working with Jenny Lesage's group. Currently, we are using some access funds to fund some of the projects we're doing with mental health. There is an opportunity for us to get some of that money hopefully back for a year, so that we're not supplanting money. We're just kind of shifting it for a year through that grant, so next year we're not sitting there going, oh, what do we do with this, whatever sum of money it is. So we're looking at mental health type programs, and hopefully we can be able to get some of the money for that as well.
I would ask questions about the security stuff, but I don't want to because I don't think we should.
And I wouldn't comment on those anyway.
Yeah.
So the crime and delinquency as it relates to the student wellness, because there's.
It's not
Oh, sorry. The second grant would be for, say that again, what the second?
Basically, student wellness, we're looking for mental health. It's a competitive grant available. And we're looking at submitting to get reimbursed for some of our funds or for some of our expenditures for some of the mental health programs that we're implementing.
Because the running theory being if we deal with mental health, it will help with crime and delinquency.
Correct, exactly right.
Thank you. Okay,
Exactly right.
thanks.
I think it's fair to say that the state realizes that goes hand in hand. Not only do we need to fortify our schools to a certain extent, but let's get to the root cause, and the root cause is some mental illness.
Sure, thank you. Okay.
Can I just ask one general question on the
Sure.
security? I know we're not going to get into nitty-gritty detail here, but, I mean, generally speaking, this is just looking at what we're currently doing and cleaning up around the edges, or are we thinking there's going to be some larger initiative?
I think a combination of both would be a fair statement, but initially what I'm looking at doing is you have some aging infrastructure in place with some security cameras, for example, and certainly upgrading those. We have, tell you that we have analog cameras out there. It's a digital world, and by upgrading those, we figure that we can spend that money that way without costing the taxpayers anything.
Okay. And it's more about infrastructure in terms of what's in the building versus processes and procedures
Correct.
related to security?
That $40,000 is more of an infrastructure-based type of thing. So things that other school districts might be applying for would be some security film, cameras, security ballards, fortifying a vestibule, for example, whereas we have secure vestibules, some schools do not, things along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on that? Next, we have approval for a contract to enter into a contract with Atlantic Aquatic Engineering. Again, this is tied to the infrastructure program at the high school. This contract that you, I think, received in your packet is for a total of $3,400. This is an integral part of what we're doing to improve the pool facility and working with the architect for the infrastructure.
So for these, I mean, are you looking for this committee to recommend these to go to the full board, or you're just assuming we're going right to the full board? Or these will be on the next?
These will be on the next agenda item for the board to approve
Okay.
contracts.
Do you need any direction from us?
Any
this is just
comments
a-
that you might have, any questions, I'm happy to answer
If
anything.
this was
along
just
those lines.
informative, not a, okay, I just wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
this is just to do with, I mean, I read the thing today.
Yeah, I went through it.
I should have said, I read that last Friday when you gave it to us.
I just don't know if there needs to be
No, I
any,
know.
the
No, I
facilities
know.
committee
Yeah.
recommends this to the
Exactly.
rest of the board like we've
No,
done
I
in the
get what
past.
you're
Well,
saying.
I
Yeah,
think
this
that's,
is just- yeah.
no, they are on here for approval from the
sorry.
facilities
As a
committee.
recommendation.
As a
from the committee.
recommendation, yeah.
So,
My fault.
No, no worries. I just
Yeah,
wanted to be
yeah.
sure
No,
that we
no.
formalize it if we need to.
yeah, so, yeah, I recommend that we move it up, if you guys agree.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I just had a question, because
Sure.
the letter that we got in our packet is actually addressed to the architect. Is this,
Yes.
will they be hired through the architect, or would we be hiring them directly?
We'll be hiring them directly.
Okay.
That way we have control over it.
Yep, that's fine. We're on the same path.
I think the reason to answer your question, why it was directed to the architect, is I wanted to make sure that the architect has input to exactly what he's looking for to make this as smooth an operation moving forward. Instead of me negotiating with something and maybe missing something, I wanted to make sure the architect was dialed in so that any information he has, we don't have to come back to the board and go, oh, we forgot this, we need to spend extra money.
Honestly, in reading through the contract, I mean, for the dollars, because I think it was this was either the $1,500 one or the $2,500 one.
3,400,
34, right.
34.
It's good information for us to have about the pool, as
Absolutely.
old as it is. You know, this is just plain old good information to have, so, yeah, no, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
The next item on the agenda is approval for entering a contract with Vortex Environmental. We have quite a few wetlands on the property of the high school, which would be, well, primarily closest to the intersection of Route 30 and Radnor-Chester Road, making sure we have those properly delineated so any type of disturbance is taken care of, as well as we have some wetlands that are behind the tennis courts. We have a creek that runs through there, making sure that we have all those properly delineated. And this is an expert to be able to take care of that. We would need this anyway for any type of application that we would have for the county conservation district in the state.
So will this cover the creek this will cover the whole property?
Yes, exactly correct.
And what's the timing?
Once you approve this, then they'll start probably within a week after that. And I would think
And
they'd
when
have it
would-
wrapped up within 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So we
Some of
could,
this will-
maybe by our November meeting, get some feedback.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
That'd be
It also
interesting.
has to be tied into the, the surveyor as well. This document, this work will fold into what the surveyor is doing, but certainly we'll get a report from him as he sends it to the surveyor, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. So then the surveyor will incorporate it into the survey documentation.
Correct. And then we'll have one final set of survey plans for the high school, which will be then digitized, put onto drives, multiple drives in the district, so that we have that for forever and ever.
And will the survey then include the trees, the larger trees?
So,
So
yes,
they'll
this-
populate, okay.
Correct. So the survey, and that's where we're going through now with the 3 different companies. The one company who we're having the best luck of pricing includes not only taking this information, incorporating into it, having the 1-foot contours, which the architect and the
So they will do
design
the
professionals-
topography,
And
okay.
we'll also have the tree caliber and location, so we can keep track of that as well.
Perfect, yeah, that's what I'm used to seeing. Okay, cool.
We're hoping to put the, we potentially, depending on what happens this week, put that on the agenda for next
That's
week,
correct.
the survey?
Yes.
Okay, so just as a, there's an update to the board on Friday about that as well.
Is the surveying, I know that we're looking at the high school for the surveying, but I know you and I have also talked about doing everything, because all the plans and everything that we have for the whole district are not digitized, and
Correct.
you just have them rolled up in a bin upstairs.
Yeah.
So having the whole district, I know, surveyed digitally is a goal of yours. Would the firm that wins the bid for the high school be people you'd look at to do all of our property?
Depending upon their outcome of the high school, yeah, I would think so. They're the one
And
group,
the cost.
and the cost,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
That's
yeah,
the key
obviously.
thing,
Because 55 acres at Ithan is not gonna be an easy survey.
right?
I don't know, because it's mostly trees.
But it's
Yeah,
got a lot
I
of
know.
topography
Yeah, I
because
know,
of the
it's
steep
impressive.
slopes and everything
Yeah.
else. That will not be an easy survey. And we have done it, you know, in past years, so.
So-
I get
It's
it, not
digital.
digitally.
I
yeah.
know, which is like,
I hear you.
Well, the other thing about that is, and it's back to this one for the wetlands. I happen to be reading the sections of the COIL report for the high school over the weekend. And whether it's Vortex doing a delineation or it's whatever company, there's some question about exactly how many acres and what PennDOT took when they put in the Blue Route. And I don't know if the last survey we had done was done before or after the Blue Route was put in. You know, it did raise, for me, some questions about the exact acreage we have here. And then kind of glancing through, it seems like there's some questions about a number of properties, so.
Well, remember, we did do the high school renovation after the Blue Route was put in.
Yeah.
Well after, so I gotta imagine we have something from that
We
time.
do have something, but it seemed, the information that I have upstairs seems to be more related to the construction, confined to the construction footprint of the high school and not the campus as a whole. And I'm
okay.
looking for the campus as a whole, and you're absolutely right. I've been going through the deeds and
Yeah,
trying to
it's
delineate,
questions.
trying to delineate when certain pieces of property went to the Blue Route, when certain pieces of property were sold off, and it's somewhat ambiguous, but
So
we're going
that,
through that.
that's something that this survey will establish.
Yes,
They'll go back to the deed books, they'll go back to the county,
yes.
they'll basically codify.
And say, here's what you have right now.
Okay, good,
I
thank you.
imagine- But I imagine that the Blue Route, knowing where the Blue Route is and where the high school is, it wasn't our property on the other side of the road. So to me,
It
the
ha-
Blue Route impact would be more Martha Brown's Woods.
No, it also had to do with land that they took on Lancaster Avenue. I think
widening the
Lancaster
road.
widened when they put in the Blue Route. I mean, that's what the narrative in the COIL report said.
yeah,
Okay, I imagine it did.
Yeah, it
Yep.
widened on our side a little bit.
Okay, well, that wouldn't
So,
surprise me.
and
Okay.
all of that to say,
30 was
Yeah,
not
good,
the-
okay.
are we good, so we're good with the wetlands, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're gonna I just wanted to say, we need to clarify, there are some real questions about acreage and whatever for the high school.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm looking forward to
Great,
seeing that
thank you.
survey. So I
me
guess,
too.
yeah, right. So we all approve that one going to the full committee, or
Recommend.
the full
Full
board? Yeah. So the next one up, right, is the financial action items. I don't know if we want to.
We have a couple of these for consideration. Approval monthly financial reports that you'll have available. There's a couple gifts and donations, one from the high school baseball team for gravel at the baseball field, and then Ithan Elementary, a grant for Teacher of the Year award of $1,000. Approval of items to be sold, donated, or disposed of. Radnor High School, we had some library books as well as another musical instrument, as well as district-wide. We have some furniture that's been sitting in the basement, and some of this stuff is the fiber board that has literally just kind of rotted away in the moisture. So get that all out of there. That's not doing anybody any good. We break out the steel, send that over to the scrapyard so that we can get some money off of that we get a check back on. We also have the acceptance of Plan Con G. Plan Con is a system by which the districts can get reimbursed for certain projects that they would do specific to classrooms in school districts. You had filed a Plan Con project for both Ithan and Wayne. You went through, you started A, and we're now up to G, so we're finally moving forward, getting that approved. And then we can move forward to the actual coming up with the money coming back to you, which unfortunately in Radnor's case is not as much as, let's say, Chester Upland would be, but still it's something from the state.
Something.
And then also you have a tax appeal, a tax assessment appeal that looking to have approved as well.
This, if I doing the math correctly of this tax assessment appeal, we're talking about less than $1,000 in tax, correct? Like $750 roughly?
Yes.
Yes, so I was kind of curious. I thought we had a whole thing about that we do appeals if it's more than a certain amount of money, so I was just, you might need to come, I'm sorry, and this was the question I had, Michelle, that I forgot what it was, but this,
Yeah, that's-
because as I did the math, I'm like 30 times 25.
Yeah. Well, let's all welcome our finance director, business
Thanks,
office
Michelle.
head, Michelle Deco. Welcome.
Yeah, it was like
Thank you.
$750 or thereabouts.
$758. So when this tax assessment appeal was brought to us, it was substantially higher than what it is here. And this was actually a settlement that was agreed to between our solicitor and their solicitor.
Yeah, I think
So,
it was
so this
somewhere
is the
around-
negotiated,
Correct.
I think
okay.
it was like around 5 million a couple of
It
years
was
ago.
about $5 million that it was going to be
Yeah, I just
reduced from,
happened to
so.
know this particular house. I looked
Okay.
it up and then figured out who it was.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
All right.
Can I ask one question?
Please.
It
Yeah,
just came to mind as a result of your comment about pulling out the metals, the steels. Do we do electronic recycling?
We do.
And how are we doing that in the district?
Byron McCook's group handles that, but generally what, as a rule of thumb, we have a recycler come through. We go ahead and wipe out with all the hard drive information. We send it out with them in an inventory. They send back to us. Typically, what they will do is look at to say, for example, if you have a computer that's newer that they might be able to repurpose and they resell, we wouldn't be charged for that. If you have an old TV tube thing, we're going to get charged for that. There's one company who I've dealt with in the past will come up and say, here's how much money we've made off of your product, here's how much it cost you, and here's either a check or here's a bill.
Right.
But it all gets certified that it's properly recycled. It's not being sent off to China to sit in some pile
Right.
of, trailer type of stuff. They do try to recycle everything.
So that's good for the computers and all of that kind of stuff, but what about everything else?
When you say everything else, you mean like furniture?
Equipment, well, so any other items that have electronics in it,
Sure.
whether it's equipment, lab equipment, maintenance guys?
So, give you an example, last month you all approved some equipment from the high school music department. The musical instruments, went to see when another school might be interested in that, and some are, some aren't. There's some electronic equipment that went to a group in Ardmore, I think it is. It's right up the road, so either Ardmore and Haverford. And they typically pay us pennies on the dollar, and then they try and scrap out those pieces, because in many cases, that equipment, they can't get parts for, so they use that as replacement parts for somebody who's looking for this, hard to find part type of thing. So we've used that, or we'd also, any type of other electronic equipment would also go out with the computers as well. So there's a company I've used,
Okay.
Sycamore, that any type of electronic device they'll take, whether it be a computer, server, whether it be a TV screen, LCD
Kitchen
monitor.
equipment, anything?
Kitchen equipment, not so much.
Okay.
Now, if there's electronics in it, yes. So a microwave, yes.
That's what I mean, yeah.
A refrigerator, we would have our folks are licensed to take out the Freon, and then
Freon.
we would take that over to the scrapyard.
Okay, cool.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
And that concludes what I have for you this evening.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Brooks? Or Mr. Batchel? No? All right. New business, anyone?
I have one question on new business, or one topic on new business. Our website. So, and I can't remember I know what the topic was. Of course I do. But I was doing some research on some stuff, and I wanted to go back and look at the website to pull up old meetings and things like that. And we had said that those meetings were supposed to be left up there as the archive, especially as we reduced what our meeting minutes were, and went back and forth on that. So I realized the meeting minutes have had their own evolution. But the website is sparse. And especially because I went back and I looked at the township's website, which is incredibly helpful, because you can find stuff very easily, both video and agenda items. So I know we switched over to the board docs and that created some problem, but what are we doing to get the archive back up there? Because I think right now there's only 2 years.
This isn't really a facilities issue. I know, I only say this because when I served on GRCC, we were reviewing the school district's policies and procedures regarding the website. So that's probably not something Mark has the answers to, I'm guessing.
Well,
Something we have to talk to Mike Petiti about?
Mike Petiti would certainly be able to give much more depth and detail. As I understand it, there are certain ADA requirements for searching of documents on various websites. And we're trying to comply with those ADA requirements, and that's my understanding, the reason why many of the things in the past were taken down, so they can go ahead and modify them to make sure they're ADA compliant, is my understanding of it.
Oh, no, this is something, that is true with the red documents, but I actually have had a conversation with Michael about this. There's an issue with the meetings that were stored at MediaCast.
Oh, that, I'm sorry.
That,
I thought
so
you were
the
looking-
meetings back before the board docs thing, Patty, and even before, the MediaCast contract is, before YouTube, I'm sorry, I misspoke. So we are having an issue with getting back online our meetings that used to be stored through MediaCast down at the DCIU. Yell at me if I'm misspeaking, because this is what Michael told me. They're on a server somewhere, we need to get them, it's my
Okay.
it's my understanding.
And I knew there was something when we
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
board
hang-
docs.
It's my understanding from Michael, and we do need to deal with this, is that if you come to the building and ask for a tape of it, there is some way to get it. I understand that that's not the same as having it on the website, but it does have to do with an issue with MediaCast.
Yeah, I remember that's when
That's-
we switched over to YouTube.
Unless you want
and-
to add to it, Ken, but I had spoken to him because I was looking
Yeah.
for a meeting.
No, I remember when we had this, when we switched over to, and we're talking about YouTube, and why don't we just, we had this whole thing about like, yeah, it's supposed to be simple, because the township does it in hours. And
Yeah,
Mike was
they're
like,
all up
it takes
there.
4 days, and it was
Yeah.
like ridiculous, but.
If you guys watch GRCC, there's actually an issue with YouTube now
Yeah.
as well. And Michael has been updating the GRCC committee about that.
Okay, and all of that is fair for video. I think the video should be up there, and in this day and age and technology, we should be able to have them up there. But also, none of the meeting minutes are up there. You can't find any meeting minutes either.
But that gets back to what Mark's saying about they're working on ADA accessibility.
But I know
We-
it's been 2
we
years 'cause
literally-
talked about
there's
it
a-
when I was
So-
on GRCC, we talked about it
So
2
let me,
years
why
ago.
don't we,
Yeah.
why don't we do this? Why don't we bring, the next GRCC or Communications Committee meeting, we can have Michael give an update, but all the things that have been mentioned have been challenges, and it's been the MediaCast contract running out, the IU that was housing that was no longer gonna be able to house that. We have the ability to obtain,
Right.
the video of it, but that means us having a server and trying to figure out how to then be able to make that accessible electronically versus, that's why someone can come in and we could make them a copy. There has been the piece also about making sure our website, we were part of that, the Office of Civil Rights contacted several school districts. We were one of those districts about our accessibility. I mean, there's no district that I really think has been, at least in Pennsylvania, that hasn't been hit with this, and that we had to make sure that our website is accessible, and that means that, PDFs are a problem. And so all of those pieces have been looked at. So I think this is a good topic we could bring to communications, and we could get a further update from both Michael and from Byron together from the technology perspective.
Okay, yeah, I'll pay attention to that. I guess my only concern about the ADA, while we have to be in the compliance, and I got all that, but does that mean the rest of us can't see them?
Yes.
So
Yes.
everything has to be wiped out while we're trying to convert them to ADA?
Not wiped out, but they are gonna be checking our website to make sure that our documents are, how are our documents accessible?
Right.
And so if we have documents that are still there that are not accessible to some
So
people.
they have to be not accessible to everybody?
Yes.
Correct.
That's brutal.
Treat everyone equally.
That's brutal.
All right. So
Yeah, I just remember it's been, because I was on GRCC my first and second year on the board, right? And made it feel like 6. And I know that we've been talking about that for 2 years now, about trying to convert that stuff over.
Right,
And
so
to me, it
don't
just
you get
doesn't
to a
seem
point
like
where
it's, I mean, it's not that it should, to me, it's
Let's
like it
just
shouldn't
do
be
it.
that hard. We're not that big of an organization. But
But we can, again.
So we can
I
put an
know.
update on where it is, and there's been a lot of work that's gone into that, so we can do that.
oh, go ahead.
Good news is, we talked a lot about moving to YouTube, and we were able to make that
Yeah,
move, so
alright.
that's been positive.
yeah, no, I'm not saying, I'm just, so
Yeah.
we can, we can always get better.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
So I have just a quick note for, it's not so much new business, well, it is new business. I got an email over the weekend, and I just want to dispel a rumor. I got an email over the weekend, there's apparently question or concern in the Garrett Hill neighborhood that there's some contemplation by the school district of selling Emlyn Tennell Park and making it an apartment building or a strip mall or a bus depot. And I just kind of wanted to put out there, the school district has not had any conversations like that in any way, shape, or form. You know, it's not zoned for those things. It's zoned for school, public land use.
The fact that it's not zoned for it, we're never gonna do it. I mean, it's
Correct.
just be
So
the dumbest
that
thing we
rumor's
could do.
out there, it's false, it's misinformation. There's no plan to use Emlyn Tennell for anything than what it's being used for now. In fact, we just approved the comfort station, and I
was gonna
think it's
say,
up and
the only
right.
thing we talk about with
I don't know
Tennell
that
is
you're mic'd.
the only thing.
Oh.
I know what I'm doing.
I can't see it.
Occasionally. The only thing we talk about Tennell is the bathroom, and we haven't heard from them in months.
No, I think it's done. They approved it. They're building, it's
It's up.
up.
Yeah, it's not up.
Oh, it's
They're
going up.
getting it, they're still, I know this from Parks and Rec,
Oh, right.
so it's a preview of what you'll hear at the board meeting. But basically, they've ordered the comfort station, it's coming sometime in November. They haven't finalized a contract for someone to actually install it. So the challenge will be where it sits until the installation takes place. But they are very, very hopeful that it will be in place for softball
Great.
season in the spring.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that that's not accurate information. We're not doing anything else with Emlyn Tennell.
It's like in Bob's house. And my backyard floods, so, but I'm at the top of a hill, so that's the whole thing. Anybody else have new business? Anything else? All right, public comment? Anyone? Doctor?
What is this?
Something for you to read.
Roberta Winters, 326 Williams Road. My concern is with the environmental survey of the wetlands delineation for the high school property. It's been my experience in working on other issues around the state that the time of year that the delineation is done is significant. I think since we had 9 inches of rain in September, and I believe only 1 inch of rain since that time, I think we may be getting different types of delineation. And I think that it's really critical that that be looked at very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Anyone else?
So is there a possibility in that, you know, if they give us a report in November, that within that contract, they could come back in, say, the spring and do some update?
Yes, absolutely. Excuse me, in addition, part of the land, again, closest to Radnor Chester and Lancaster Avenue has a riparian buffer built into it. But to answer your question, yes, we can have them revisit it in the springtime, yes.
Any other public comment? Anyone? No?
If we have them come back, can we get a discount, because they're just double checking their work?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was hoping.
Yeah, I'll see if we can get a BOGO. How's that sound? Okay.
There you go.
That was what I was hoping for.
No public comment? Okay, we're adjourned.